Welcome back to another episode of Jock Talk. I'm with Scoop B Robinson, NBA insider and reporter. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing excellent.
Good.
What do you think about the LaMelo Ball trade?
They got the point guard they needed in Minnesota. Kyrie Irving, as well as John Morant, were on their list, but the asking price for Lamelo was a little bit different than the asking price for Kyrie Irving, and you even saw. But two things stand out. One, I felt like Ja would have fit just like Lamelo did. However, with Ja, uh, that was a bit higher up in the rankings as far as what ended up happening. Nike wanted to protect their investment, and seemingly that's why he went to Portland. But I can tell you that LaMelo going to Minnesota gives them what they needed, a point guard that is explosive, and brings his own level of star power to already high octane Minnesota Timberwolves team. And I think that LaMelo and Anthony Edwards will play well off of each other in that system.
Did you think the trade came from like a surprise? Were you surprised he was traded or?
No, because those two teams were having conversation at the deadline, and they just couldn't agree on anything. And I spent significant time in Charlotte this past season, and kind of saw the schematics of just what Charlotte was doing. And there were times where Lamelo was very frustrated. I know there were some reporting out there that the Clippers were a team that could be in on a Lamelo sweepstakes, and I never saw anything substantial to suggest that was the case, other than the fact that he was from the LA area. Minnesota, to me, made more plausible sense because Charlotte was really looking to build around a point guard that was a little bit more even killed and more of the temperament of Charlotte's head coach, Charles Lee. And it's interesting because you looked at the deadline. Colin Sexton was actually the leading scorer on that Hornets team, and they ultimately traded him to Chicago. And I kind of felt that was unfair because Sexton was really leading the charge at guard in the way that I think you'll see Kobe White do so in Charlotte. And I think Charlotte needed a guard, a scoring guard that would replace LaMelo, and it seemingly was that Kobe White was working his way up or was being trained to be LaMelo's replacement. And I think that they have some pieces around Kobe White that helps Charlotte long term, because I think Charlotte was looking at the long term. Is this somebody that's going to stay here long term and build with Charlotte? And there were overtures, like I said, that Minnesota and Charlotte had, and it just didn't work out. And that's no surprise that ultimately they revisited those conversations. Even his brother, Lonzo Ball, I remember a few years ago, I had reported that the Chicago Bulls were looking to pair LaMelo Ball, Zach LaVine, and Vooch with one another. And there were other teams that were kind of looking at Lonzo, and this was back when he was in New Orleans, and they didn't get it done. And Lonzo just waited till the offseason and signed with the Bulls outright. And so, to me, the Charlotte and Minnesota conversation was really a revisit from what they had at the deadline. And Charlotte went to play in, and they didn't close it out. But I really think they had a great season, and it'll be interesting to see what they do in the long term. But on the Minnesota side, I think it was a win, and we'll see if they can go out and get LeBron and kind of finish this triumvirate that they're building out in Minnesota.
All right. I thought it was like an interesting trade. I didn't see it coming, but that's my opinion. What did you think about the Giannis Antetokounmpo trade? Did you think they gave up too much for it, or you think it was the right price?
Um, I think that the the Milwaukee Bucks, were holding out hope that there were some other teams out there that would trade, and I think Milwaukee was really hoping that they could get Karl Anthony Towns. And once Cat turned it up in the playoffs and ultimately won the finals with the New York Knicks, I think it's safe to say that ship had sailed. Those two teams had conversations. Milwaukee and Miami had conversations, but Milwaukee was also having conversations with Portland. They were having conversations with Orlando. They had conversations with Cleveland. They had conversations with Brooklyn. There were a lot of teams that they had conversations with, and it seemed like Miami was the most consistent. Um, and I think that barring for the exception of the Knicks trade, I think Miami was the best option. Um, I, I I think that Orlando's conversation with Milwaukee trading up or trading straight up Giannis for Paolo honestly would have been good for Milwaukee. But I think that Portland was also a good fit because of what I think Giannis could do in that Western Conference. But I just think he didn't want to stay in Portland. I don't think I know Miami's where he wanted to be. He wanted a fresh start. He wanted freedom, and he wanted to be in a place where he can be with some familiar pieces. Um, but I think that if Milwaukee had waited any longer and this dragged out into the regular season, I don't think that Milwaukee would have gotten as good of a trade package. And I think this dragged on for too long anyway. This has been going on since last spring, and there needed to be some resolution. So here we are.
Yeah, I thought it was a good trade. I want to see how Bam and Giannis do together, and if they get LeBron James over there, if they can get him. But I ultimately think they won't get him, and I'll get on that later today. What are your thoughts about the Jalen Brown trade? I thought if I was Boston, I would have just accepted the Giannis trade and added Hugo Gonzalez in the trade.
I think that the Jalen Brown trade benefits Philly in the short and long term um, because it pairs Jalen Brown with Maxi, and it gives I think the pieces that Philly added is what makes the Jalen Brown trade even better because Philly is not depending solely on Joel Embiid and his health. I really think that the Dean Wade signing is such an underrated move. He has a relationship with Mike Gansey, who is now the president of basketball operations with the 76ers, and their relationship predates to their tenure both in Philadelphia. Gansey is the GM, and Dean Wade and Cleveland. And I think the Dean Wade acquisition, as well as the Ariel Hukporti acquisition in Philadelphia, really will give uh, Embiid a chance to um, not be so heavily dependent on, but utilized in the right space. And rather than being a starting pitcher, he becomes a closer, so to speak, which I think he can still be effective in that way. I think for Boston, the trade benefits them both short term, but also longer term because of the combination of the picks and the combination of the journeyman that Paul George is. I think he will definitely still be beneficial to that team. I think they'll depend more on Peyton Pritchard and as well as Derek White. I think Derek White will have a phenomenal season, but I also think Paul George will play a similar role in Boston that he did in Philadelphia. Some nights he might give you 30, some nights he might give you 12, but I think that's going to also give Jason Tatum the opportunity to shine and what many people feel was his team. I've always felt that Boston was Jaylen Brown's team. And now Jason Tatum has to show why it's his team on a consistent basis. And I think for as much crap as that Jaylen Brown gets, he's been consistent. I could see if people were upset about live streaming and, civil rights activism and giving back to the community, and he wasn't being a contributing member. But this is someone who 2 years ago was the league's MVP in the playoffs, or excuse me, in the finals, and and has carried that team over the last 2 years. So if I'm Jaylen Brown, I believe that he has something to prove going into next season, and I'm excited to see it in a new 76ers uniform.
Yeah, I think the 76ers can be very legit next season. I don't know why they would trade him to the 76ers in the first place, but
Because the Atlantic Division dwellers.
okay. I just I don't see why you traded to a rival though. Like they literally just made the 76ers better than the Celtics. I don't get it.
Maybe they saw something we didn't see.
Yeah. Where do you think LeBron James ends up?
Cleveland.
Cleveland?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he ends up in Cleveland too. I don't think he ends up in Minnesota for many reasons, and I don't think he goes back to Miami. What path are the Pelicans going on? Like, what's going on around the organization right now?
They're not making any moves this offseason so far, and I know that they have had conversations with the New York Knicks about Eves Missy, and the Knicks couldn't get him, which is why they signed Andre Drummond uh, the other day. But I also know that the Pelicans are looking to add another center to their roster, and they're looking to build continuously under Derek Queen, Jeremiah Fears, and Zion. That's their triumvirate, and I just think I don't think I know they're not looking to go over the salary cap, and they're looking to really build with that young team, and we'll see what happens. I think there were moments last season just being an observer in the building and seeing games that they should have won that they didn't, and I think that this year their new coach Jamal Moses is going to be more defensive mindedly tedious, and his approach to how he handles their organization moving forward as the head coach. But as far as moves go, I know they're looking for a center, and it'll be interesting to see. Many people say, well, they have Missy. Yeah, but I know they're looking for um, some key names. So we'll see if those names come to fruition.
Do you have any names that are out there right now, or not really?
Um, yeah, I do actually. Wendell Carter Jr. is a name that I've heard continuously. He has a relationship with Jamal Mosley. That's a name that I've heard since the end of the season, and it'll be interesting to see if they're able to pry him from the Orlando Magic.
What do you think a trade package would look for like that for him?
Well, I know they're not giving up Herb Jones, and I know a lot of teams covet Herb Jones. So I know that that is one of the things that has been a major drawback from many organizations. Like the Pelicans are very, very hard pressed to give up Herb Jones. In answer to your question specifically, um, I know that one of the things that's kind of holding everything up is the availability of Trey Murphy III. There are some teams like the Brooklyn Nets who want him, and so that to me is a holdup. In addition to that, I think that any trade that they do make would likely involve Sadiq Bey. Names like Jordan Poole come out. I know at the deadline there were conversations about Jordan Poole and DeJounte Murray and the whole John Moran sweepstakes, and I've been on record saying that the holdup was picks and who will give up what. So if it's not picks, it's Herb Jones. But in answer to your question, I think it would be an iteration of Jordan Hawkins, Sadiq Bey, and probably I would guess. I think it's Trey Murphy. I think it's Sadiq Bey. I think that it is Jordan Hawkins, but I don't see Herb Jones being moved. And that, like I said, that's the drawback from reasons why the Pelicans haven't been able to make any moves so far.
I understand. You think they will make a move soon or now?
I'm not married to the idea right now. I think if you look at the Pelicans and how they've moved, they've pretty much stayed in house. You know, I think them deciding to resign DeAndre Jordan was expected. I know DeAndre Jordan is working out with Derek Queen this summer out in Los Angeles, but as far as actual moves in the organization, I don't have any intel currently to suggest that is imminent.
Do you think Zion fits with Jamal Mosley?
Yes.
You do. All right. What are your thoughts on Jerron Pierre Jr.?
Isn't he from New Orleans?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's great for the city. Anytime you have a guy who is from that city, the fans come out and support. I just want to see how that translates into the regular season. Um, what I think is cool about the summer league is that you don't have McQueen. Oh, excuse me, you don't have Queen, not McQueen. McQueen is a shoe. You don't have Queen as well as Jeremiah Fears on the summer league roster, which to me symbolizes that they have faith and that they're going to build on that team with those young guys. And so I would imagine that there's open space for him to shine in the summer league, and hopefully that carries over into um, the regular season. It's funny because I actually look at this Pelicans roster, and a guy that I think is going to really shine next season in this young core is Karlo Matkovic, and he's out playing for Croatia this summer, and he's really ready, willing, and able to do whatever needs to be done. So I actually think he's going to benefit next season if he stays healthy. But I think the sky's the limit for a lot of those young guys, not named Zion, not named Queen, not named Fears on that Pelicans roster.
Do you think they have a chance to make the play-in tournament next season with their roster?
Yeah.
You do? What's like the highest seed do you think they could get?
Maybe somewhere between 6 and 7. I don't know that 8. I think they can play above 8. I think 6 or 7.
Thanks for your insights, because I was thinking around 7 or 8. Uh, what game are you looking towards most to the summer league that's going to start up on Thursday?
I don't really have one, to be honest with you. I'm actually enjoying some downtime. It's been a long season, but I think I'm interested to see how the Washington Wizards kind of shape up. I'm very high on the Wizards this season, and it's not just because AJ's on that team. I really look at this team with Trae Young and Anthony Davis, and if Anthony Davis does ultimately stay and stays healthy, I think that they can do damage or at least be a competitive team in an Eastern Conference. So I want to see what the Wizards summer team looks like. I'm also interested to see what Portland does in the summer league. There's some motion there, and I'll add that for the Pelicans, I'm very excited for Gasham God as the head coach of their summer league team. I've chronicled and or been around Sham for quite some time, and dating back to his reign as a New York point guard, and I'm glad to see him get his just due over the last few years, starting from during his time in Dallas and as an assistant coach, and then coming to Orlando and become a really trusted assistant under Jamal Mosley, and he was passed up, I believe, for that for a couple of head coaching jobs in college. So I really want to see him shine, and hopefully, New Orleans is just the beginning for him to continue to raise his value as a trusted coach, trusted assistant coach, trusted skills coach in the league.
Are you hearing any trades that could happen around the league soon, or are you hearing anything?
No, it's been quiet. The thing that's really the first domino to fall is where LeBron is going, and I think that once that team reveals itself, I've been on record that I believe it's Cleveland for a multitude of reasons. I believe that many dominoes will fall, and I believe that there's still some things that need to be done, like DeMar DeRozan, and as far as signing goes and things of that sort. But no, I haven't heard anything as far as any major trades right now. It's been mostly signings.
Are you hearing anything about Benedict Mathurin or Jonathan Kuminga and where their landing spots could be?
I've heard Lakers. I've heard Heat. I've heard Cleveland. There's a lot of back and forth there, but I'll be honest with you. I watched him in Atlanta. I spent some significant time in Atlanta this season, and even spent some time with him during his run in Golden State, dating back to 2022. And this is for Kuminga, and I really want to see him flourish. I actually like Benedict Mathurin in a Clippers uniform. I think there's a few teams that could really utilize his services, and it's less what I've heard, more what I see. I think that I think he needs to be on a team where he's the focal point. I think a team like Brooklyn would definitely utilize his services. I think even if you're looking to just get buckets and be a star on the team, I think a team like Sacramento would definitely be utilizing his services. I really thought that his time in Indiana, it got overshadowed because of Halliburton's rise. And I think that sometimes when you go to another team, your skill set and just what people view you to be kind of corrects itself. Um, I actually think that Benedict Mathurin would fit on a Pelicans team, actually, as just a high volume scorer that can get to the cup, that can shoot more. And but yeah, I think I think the Clippers are definitely a crowded place, and with the acquisition of Rui Hachimura and of course them getting Brandon Ingram, I don't know. I think that that's a no go. I think there are some teams that could utilize his services, however.
Before we end the show, do you think there could be like a sign and trade with Benedict Mathurin to the Pelicans for Herb Jones or
For who?
Herb Jones?
I haven't heard anything to suggest that, but it does sound interesting.
Okay. Thank you for coming on the show, though.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Let me know if you're available when the season starts again to come back on.
I will.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank
See
you,
you.
Colin. Appreciate you.
This is the latest episode of Jock Talk. There's gonna be more coming soon. Go watch the ones with Mitchell Robinson. Will Clapp's gonna be dropping tomorrow. So thanks. Have a good day.